Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Ashok IT. So today is our fourth class in Spring Boot and Microservices online training. Right. Let's get started. I'm sharing my screen. Let me know once you can see that. Can you see my screen? All of you? Yes, right. In yesterday's class, we discussed about Spring Boot advantages. Right. In today's session, creating first application using Spring Boot. Building first Spring Boot application. About how to build our application and Spring Initializer website, using Spring Initializer website, which is called approach. IDs are available. By using those IDs also, we can create our Spring Boot application. Right now. So there are several ways to create the boot application. There are several ways available to create the boot application. Right now, first internally IDE will communicate with start.spring.io website. Create the project only to create that. Right. Directly you can create the boot application by using start.spring.io website, or you can use IDE also to create boot application. And the thing that you have to remember, if you use IDE also, internally it will communicate with start.spring.io website only to create a. We have seen how can we create that by using start.spring.io website. Open start.spring.io website and create boot application. Now let's observe. I'm going to open that start.spring.io website in order to create our boot application. Start.spring.io. This is Spring Initializer website, which is used to generate our boot applications. Here, it will ask for several details in order to create our application. So in the previous class, I explained what are these details. So today, directly I'm going to create that application. Right. Fine. First, project. It supports for Maven and Gradle. So you can choose which build tool you want to use to create this project. I'm using Maven as a build tool. Language I'm using Java, and version, latest version 2.3.2, and metadata, group ID, artifact ID, name for the project, package for the project, packaging type, and which version of the Java you want to use. Right. Now I'm keeping Maven project. I'm keeping this as a Maven project, choosing Java to create this project, and boot version keeping as it is 2.3.2, And group ID, I'm changing it to com.ashok IT. Group ID represents your organization name, or you can represent it as a project name. Com.ashok IT is the group ID I'm using. Artifact ID I am using 01 Spring Boot application. First boot application we are creating, so I'm giving that as artifact ID. Name also same, artifact ID and name can be same. Demo project for Spring Boot, fine. Package name, I'm giving it as a com.ashok IT, simple. Eight version I'm using to create this project. And if you need any dependency for this project, here we have dependencies section. Using the dependencies section, we can add the dependency for this project. But as it is a first application, I am not adding any dependency. I'm not adding any dependency, and I'm clicking on generate. Clicking on generate. The details of my project. Zip format, and let's extract that and understand what is there inside that zip. Let's understand what is there inside that zip. Now, this is my zip file which got downloaded from Initializer website. 01 spring boot app.zip. Right now, let's extract this zip, extract to this folder. Now, the zip file got extracted. Go inside this. Here, our project folder is available. Sir, I want this project to be in my IDE. I want to import this project into my IDE. So I'm choosing one workspace for my toolsuit IDE. Choose the workspace. I'm going to choose the workspace. Our project code is 05 SBMS. So I'm choosing the workspace related to that. So it is an empty workspace. Currently nothing is there. I'm launching my workspace. Once we launched our IDE, then I will import this project into that IDE. We'll import this project into that IDE. Right. So this is the location where our project is available. Boot application. Now you need to copy your project location up to pom.xml file. Copy this location up to the project pom.xml file. Now my Spring Tools IDE is opening. Once that IDE is opened, then we can import our boot application into that IDE and we can explore the files which are created by Yes, give 1 minute. The IDE is still getting opened. Guys, am I audible now? Think due to network, it got disconnected and connected again. Am I audible now? Right. Now, I opened my IDE. Now I want to import that project using this IDE. I want to import the project into my IDE. Good. Go to file section. Here we have import option. Import option. What type of project we want to import? Our project is Maven based. So we are going to select the option called Maven. If you observe in this box, Maven is available. Existing Maven projects we are going to import. So click on next. It will ask you the location where your project pom.xml file is available. So we need to copy the project location till pom.xml file. So this is the location where the pom.xml file is available. I am copying this location and give it to our IDE so that it will go to that location and will import the project into our IDE. Yes, 1 second, it is taking time to respond. Yeah, finally. Paste this location. Spring Boot application, click on browse. Yeah, I have given the location directly, or you can select it by clicking on the browse also. It located the pom.xml file of our project. Click on finish. Now it imported our application. It imported our application. It is importing our application to IDE. So we'll explore what are the files it got created inside this project. In the first boot application, what are the files it is creating that we are going to observe now. Yeah, the project is getting imported. So meanwhile, so let's verify what are the files it is going to create in this project. What are the files it is going to create in this project? Let's verify. We created our project with a name called 01 Spring Boot app. So we created this project like this, 01 Spring Boot app. In this, it is going to create some folders. The first one will be SRC main Java. As we used Java, Maven as a build tool for Java application, it will create a project with Maven folder structure. SRC main Java, that will be created. Inside this SRC main Java, it will create one class with a name called application.java. We'll talk about that. What is that application.java? After this, it will create one class or one folder with a name called SRC main resources. In that folder, it will maintain one file with a name called application.properties. Application.properties. And it will create one more thing, SRC main test. Sorry, SRC test Java. SRC test Java folder will be created. In that folder, it will create one file with the name called application test.java. Application test.java. And one more thing, src/test/resources. This folder also will be created. Along with that, we'll create one more file with a name called pom.xml. Create one more file with a name called pom.xml. So this is how the folder structure is going to look like in our boot standalone application. We created a standalone application in our project, standalone application by using Spring Boot. This is how the folder structure is going to look like. This is how the folder structure is going to look like. Now, We need to understand what is this folder structure, what is the meaning of all these things, what is the purpose of these folders, and what we are going to write in these folders, right? So first one, SRC main Java. SRC main Java. Here we will write our business classes. Here we will write our business classes, Java classes, which contains the business logic. We will write our Java components like DAO, service, controller, Pojo, etc. Bean classes, all those classes we are going to write inside SRC main Java. Now, in SRC main resources, we will keep, or we will write config files, configuration files like .properties, .yml, .xml, etc. Such kind of property files we are going to write inside the resources folder. In the SRC main Java, we will write our Java classes like service classes, controller classes, DAOs, Pojos, etc. In the resources folder, we will write configuration files of our application. Some people will use .properties configuration, some people will use .yml, some people will use .xml. Such kind of properties files and configuration files will keep inside the resources folder. Right. Next one, SRC test Java, SRC/test/Java. We will write unit test classes. We will write unit test classes using JUnit. In our application, we will perform unit testing by using JUnit. So those JUnit classes we are going to write inside this test Java folder. Next one, SRC test resources. SRC test resources. We will write config files for JUnit classes. My JUnit classes want to use some properties files, config files for JUnit classes like .properties, .yml, and .xml, etc. As part of the unit testing, if you want to use any property file for database configuration and properties files configuration, YML configuration, XML configuration, bootstrap configuration, anything that you need as part of unit testing, keep inside SRC test resources, right? And another very important file, which is pom.xml, This pom is a Maven input file. Here we will configure application dependencies. So what are the dependencies that are required for our project? Those dependencies we are going to configure inside pom.xml. So these are the main folders that are getting created when we create our boot application by using Maven. This is Maven project folder structure. Standalone project folder structure when we create by using Maven. In this project, we are using Spring Boot. So just look at this folder structure and see what is the purpose of those folders and what we are going to do with those folders. SRC main Java. The purpose is writing our Java components, Java classes. SRC main resources. The purpose of SRC main resources, configuration files will write. SRC test Java. The purpose is to write the unit test classes by using JUnit. SRC test resources. The purpose is to write the configuration files which are required for unit testing components. Pom.xml, the purpose is to configure the dependencies which are required for our application. This is Maven input file. Just go through this folder structure and the details about the folders. I hope it is easy and clear to understand. Is it clear for all of you? We created our first application by using Spring Initializer website. We downloaded the project as a zip file and we imported the project into our IDE. This is how the project is going to look like, and what are the folders available in the project and what is the purpose of those folders also we are able to see here. So the first one, SRC main Java. In that folder, we are going to create our components like controllers, service, DAO and Pojo. Right, SRC main resources. In that, we will write our configuration files like .properties, .yml, .xml files, etc. Then test Java folder. There we are going to write our unit test classes using JUnit. So for our application, unit testing is also very important. But the unit testing components we are going to write inside that test Java folder. Test resources we will write in that. For unit testing, what is the configuration that is required? Those components, those files will be kept inside the test resources folder. And one pom.xml file also will be created. That is the input file for the Maven. POM stands for Project Object Model. What is the purpose of that POM? In that POM, we are going to configure application dependencies. If I want a Hibernate dependency, I will configure. If I want Apache Kafka dependency, I will configure. If I want security in my project, then I will configure security related dependency. So what are the dependencies that you want to use in your application? Those dependencies we will configure in project pom.xml. POM stands for Project Object Model. POM stands for Project Object Model. Right. Now, sir, apart from this, what is the purpose of this application.java class? What is the purpose of this application.java class? And what is this properties file? And what is this application test.java? These are the three classes, these are the three components which are coming by default when we create a boot application. Now, application.java is called as boot start class. It is called as boot start class. Boot start class. That means Spring Boot application execution will begin from this start class only. Whenever you run a boot application, that boot application execution process will begin from application.java. That class will be given to you. That class will be given to you by default. Whenever you create Spring Boot application using Initializer website, by default you will get one class with a name called application.java. That class is called as Spring Boot start class. Some people will call it as a main class in the Spring Boot. It is called as a main class in the Spring Boot. Why they will call it as a main class? Because that class is the entry point for boot application execution. In that class, main method will be available. Boot start class, in that main method will be available to start our boot application execution. This is the very important class in the Spring Boot, because if you develop a very big complex application also, the execution will start from this boot start class only, which contains a main method, which contains a main method. Now, next one. What is this application.properties file? So for configuration properties, for config properties you can write. Config props you can write in the form of key value. In the form of key value format. Like DB configuration I want to do. I want to connect with a database. So database credentials we can configure inside this application.properties file. Configuration properties we are going to maintain inside the application.properties file. Instead of application.properties file, you can use application.yml also. You can use application.yml also to configure the properties which are required for your application. And next one, application test is available. So unit test class, Spring Boot unit test class. boot application unit test class. Boot application unit test class. JUnit component will be available for us, that is boot app unit test class. This also will come to our project by default whenever we create the project. Whenever we create the project, these three files will come to us by default. Right now, unit test resources. Unit test resources, config props for unit testing, we can write inside test resources. Here file will not come by default. We need to create that file, and if you want to add it, you need to create that file and you need to keep in the test resources folder. By default will not come. Then pom.xml, it is a Maven configuration file, Maven config file. Maven input file, we can call it as a Maven config file also, where we are going to configure dependencies that are required for our application. Where we are going to configure dependencies that are required for our application. Just go through the diagram once and understand what is the folder structure of our project and what is the purpose of each folder and what are the default files that we are getting and what is the purpose of each file. Anybody having any questions? Please type your question in the chat box. Right. You people may get a doubt. Sir, yesterday you told that Spring Boot supports 0xml configuration, but why are you using this pom.xml? Spring Boot supports 0xml configuration, but why are you using pom.xml? Right. One thing that you need to understand, pom.xml is not boot XML. Pom.xml is from the Maven. Pom.xml is from the Maven. It is not from the Spring Boot. Whenever you are writing XML for Spring Boot, then you need to think about XML configuration. Here I am not writing any Beam configuration file in the XML format. So pom.xml is not related to Spring Boot. It is related to build tool called Maven. So we should not consider that as a XML configuration in the boot. Are you clear with this? Yeah, some people are asking what are the differences between .properties file and .yml file. Both are used for configuring the properties which are required in our application, like database configuration properties, Java mail API properties, Apache Kafka properties, security properties, right? And some other ORM properties. Those things we can configure in the .properties file, or we can configure in the .yml file also. So what is the difference between .properties file and .yml file? This is not the right time, guys. So slowly we will understand the actual differences between properties file and .yml file. Okay, right. Fine. It is a standalone application. In this standalone application, the templates will not be available. If the templates are available, those are used to configure your HTML templates by using TimeLeaf. In the web application folder structure, we will understand what are those templates folder. What is the purpose of that templates folder? Mr. Ganesh, When you go for a web application, your view components will be available. That view component you can develop by using JSP or you can develop by using TimeLeaf. Whenever you go for TimeLeaf as a presentation technology, TimeLeaf template files will be available as a HTML file. That HTML file will keep in the templates folder of the boot application. But currently we are talking about a standalone application, not web. In the web MVC module, I will tell you web application folder structure. I will tell you what is the template, how to work with the TimeLeaf also. We will cover both JSP and TimeLeaf as front-end technologies for our boot applications. Yeah. Anyone having any other questions in the folder structure of our first boot application? You have to understand this structure carefully because daily we are going to work with these projects only. This is the structure we are going to see on daily basis. You should have more clarity where you need to write your Java code, where you need to write your configuration files, where you need to write your unit test code, unit test classes, where you need to configure the dependencies, and what is application.java, what is application.properties, what is application test.java. So what is application.java class? What is application.java class? What is the purpose of application.java class? Guys, could you please respond? What is the purpose of application.java class? It is bootstrap class. It doesn't contain business logic, sir. Mr. Ketaki, it doesn't contain the business logic. It will contain just one main method from where our project is going to start. Our project execution will begin from that application.java class. It contains a main method. Business logic will not be available in that. We don't write any application specific business logic in that. It is a main method. It is the entry point for our boot application execution. Right. Next, what is the purpose of application.properties file? What is the purpose of application.properties file? Come on. What is the purpose of application.properties file? Configuration details of our project, like database configuration, SMTP configuration, any configuration properties that you want to do. If you want to separate from the Java code, those properties you can keep inside our properties file. Nowadays, instead of the properties files, people are using YML. Right. What are the differences between properties files and YML? We'll discuss in the coming classes. Right. Now, application test.java will be available. What is the purpose of the test class? What is the purpose of the test class? Unit test. So for our components, unit testing is mandatory nowadays. We need to write the JUnits to perform unit testing. That unit testing code, classes, components will create inside src test Java folder, and one class will be given to you by default, that is application test.java. Right. What is pom.xml? What is pom.xml? It is a Maven input file. Maven dependencies will configure in the pom.xml. Spring Boot saying that 0 XML configuration, but why still pom.xml is available? Spring Boot says that 0 XML configuration, but why still pom.xml is available? Guys, please be active in the session. If you don't respond, then I'm feeling like I'm talking to my laptop. Make it as interactive session. If you provide your answers so that I will understand how I need to deliver the next concept. If you give the proper answer, then only I will understand that you are able to follow my words. Otherwise, I have to repeat once again. Please be active and please be responsive. If you sit idle, then I will lose my interest to deliver the concept. Yes. Pom.xml. POM stands for Project Object Model. POM stands for Project Object Model. It is not related to the boot. It is a build tool XML. So still, whatever Spring Boot is saying, that is 100% true. No XML configuration. Spring Boot, whatever the Spring Boot is saying, that is 100% true. No XML configuration, right? Pom.xml is not related to boot. It is a Maven configuration file. If you go for Gradle, this XML will not be available. Okay. If you don't use this Maven, then that XML file will not be available. All right. Good. Now, let us see the same structure is available in our IDE or not. We imported our project into IDE. So let us go to our IDE and see we are able to see the same folder structure or not. Fine. Yes, you can see that that project got created. Yes, main Java. In the main Java, one package will be available. We have given the name of the package also, Comrade Ashok IT. In this application.java class got created. Now, let us open this application.java and see what is there inside that. What is there inside that application.java? Yes, guys. So this is the code that is available in application.java. Let me increase my font size. A simple Java class with main method. A simple Java class with main method. Right. So this is start class of our Spring Boot, which contains a main method. Inside that, they are calling one predefined method, Spring application.run method, and they have one annotation, one decorator is available here, which is @Spring Boot application. So we need to understand what is the purpose of this application.run method and what is the purpose of this annotation. Then you will get 30% of knowledge related to Spring Boot if you know these two concepts. @Spring Boot application annotation purpose and Spring application.run method purpose. So it is not that much simple to explain you in one day. So it is going to take 3-4 classes to understand what is the purpose of this method, how it is executing in the background, and what is the purpose of this annotation. If I remove this annotation, what will happen? If I don't call this method, what will happen? That also we are going to understand in detail. In detail, I'm going to explain you how the run method will execute internally. I will show you the source code of the run method also, and I will tell you what is the purpose of the boot application and what are the several features that are providing by this annotation also. We need to understand very clearly. So 3-4 classes it is going to take only to understand this start class, because this is the very important class in our entire Spring Boot application. Right. Next, go to the resources. One file got created with a name called application properties. That properties file created by default. Nothing will be available. If you want, you can add the properties in the form of key and value pair. Your database URL, username, password, driver class, you can configure here in the form of key value. Now, SRC test Java. In this application test.java class got created. This is our boot test class using JUnit. Using JUnit, it will create one boot application test class. Here you can write your unit testing logic for our project. Right. Next one, JRE library. JRE library will be available. It's choosing 1.8. We selected Java 8 at the time of creating the project. Maven dependencies. What are the jars it downloaded? All the dependencies will be displayed. Currently, we are using boot 2.3.2 release. So Spring Boot starters, Spring Boot, Spring AOP, Spring Beans, Log4j, Logback, Spring Core. It is using Spring version 5.2.8, right? Mockito, JUnit. All the jars which are required for our boot application, it has downloaded that. SRC, it is displaying what are the high-level classes that we created. Target folder. In this folder, our .class files will be stored. Whenever we compile our boot application, .class files will be generated. Those .class files will be available in the target folder. And whenever we do Maven build of this application, jar file will be created for this project. That jar also will be available inside this target folder. These are Maven configurations. Maven file pom.xml will be available. Go to pom.xml file and see that. what is that pom.xml and what is there in that pom.xml. In that pom.xml, Maven configurations will be available. Maven configurations will be available in that pom.xml file. Good. So root element of the POM is project. Inside that, parent dependency available, the parent starter of the Spring Boot starter parent. Here we are specifying which version of the Spring Boot we are using. Then group ID of our project, artifact ID, version, description of the project, properties Java version 1.8, dependency. I have not selected any dependency at the time of creating the project, but by default, two dependencies are available in this pom.xml. One dependency is called boot starter and another one is boot starter test. So when you create a boot application as a standalone application, by default, you will get these two dependencies. One is boot starter test, another one is boot starter. This boot starter dependency will give all the jars which are required to develop your boot application, like Spring Core, Spring AOP, Spring Beans, auto configuration of the boot. All the jars that are required for your application development will be given to you with the help of this boot starter. And unit testing related components will be provided to you with this boot starter test dependency. These dependencies will come by default. And one plugin also will be available, which is boot Maven plugin, which is used to process our boot application build process of the boot project will done by using this boot Maven plugin. These things will come by default in the pom.xml file of our project. So you can see the structure also, same thing. Yeah, this is the project structure that we imported from our system, which is downloaded from Initializer website. So this is how the first project is going to look like. Can you see any templates here? No templates, because it is not a web application. If it is a web application, then templates will be available for you. Currently, templates are not there. In the web project, the templates will come. All of you comfortable with the folder structure? Same thing that we have seen here. So these are the details about that folder structure. So how I created the project? I created the project by using Initializer website. I created the project by using Initializer website. Any questions, anyone? Anybody has any questions on this? All right, fine. Test resources are not available by default. You can create that folder and you can add it. That's not a problem. And there is an error in the pom.xml file. It is displaying that error. The reason of this is it is not able to point to the XSD namespaces of this pom properly. So that's why this error mark is available. It doesn't stop your project to execute. It is not going to stop your project to execute. Simply we can delete that error. Or if you are this XML namespaces are not pointing correctly, so that's why it is giving this error. It doesn't make any problem for our execution. You can simply delete it. That's not an issue. That's not an issue. What is unit testing? We will understand that, sir. We'll understand what is unit testing. Yep. And what is standalone application? A simple application which will execute from the main method. That is a standalone application. And templates are related to UI, presentation logic, that we'll discuss in the MVC module. Mr. Shashi, those are Maven related files, build tool files. All right, fine. Once we create this project, we can run this project also, and we can see how to run our boot application and whether are we able to run this application or not. So observe carefully, right click on this project, run as Spring Boot. I did not do any change, just created the project, I imported that into my IDE and I'm running this application as a boot app. Right click on the project, choose run as, go for boot app. Then we can see the console, what is happening. Is our application is running or not? We are observing that. Say this console, application started and application terminated. If you can see this banner, that means Spring Boot application got executed successfully and application started and application stopped because there is no component we created, there is no logic available to process in this application. Just we created the project and we ran this application. We are able to run the application successfully. How can we say it is successful? The Spring Boot banner is printed. If the Spring Boot banner is printed like this on the console, that means your application execution is successful. Now let us see once again how to run it. I have not changed anything, guys. I have not changed anything. Just created the project, downloaded the zip, imported that into my IDE, and I am right click on this project, run as boot app. Now application execution started and application execution got stopped. Boot banner is printed. So today I want you people also to practice this. Create project by using an Initializer website, download the project, import into IDE and start running. If you are able to run like this, then your environment setup is done for developing the applications by using Spring Boot. All right. Any questions? Anyone? Yes, sir. I'm using Initializer website to create this project first. Yes, and I'm using ToolSuite IDE. You can go for IntelliJ also. Some examples I will do on the STS, that is ToolSuite. Some examples I will do using IntelliJ IDE. Both I will use it. Right. So please practice this and come back for tomorrow's session. Tomorrow we'll continue. Tomorrow we'll understand some more details related to our project. Thank you, guys. See you tomorrow.